Dis After Dark Podcast is sponsored by Unofficial.com, the home of Halloween Horror Nights news and rumors all year round. Find us on the web at www.hhnunofficial.com. So stop the fog machines and clear the cobwebs. It's time for another episode of the podcast that's nearly the same as all the others.
Warning. This show contains childish adult content and is intended for immature, mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. The views spoken are ours and ours alone, not those of any other bugger. If you're easily offended, we strongly suggest finding another podcast. Everybody neat and pretty, then on with the show.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Dis After Dark. Now, before we go any further, I wanted to issue a public apology to a friend of ours. I was listening to the last episode of Universal After Dark, which two of my co-hosts on the show tonight were on the episode. Good episode, guys, by the way. But I did have to pick up on something, and good friend of the show, well, good friend of Craig at least, Lee Malaby. And towards the end of the show, there was some remarks made about him and about him having a dark mark in terms of Harry Potter and where that dark mark may be. And Lee does get quite a bit of stick from this podcast. And Lee, I just want you to know that whenever we do that, it's completely in jest. It's because we like you. If we didn't like you, we wouldn't bother. But I believe it was actually Mr. Ripley who suggested it could be on his Woody Woodpecker.
Did I? Was I drunk on that episode as well?
Of course you were.
Probably.
Universal After Dark. So, Lee, I just wanted to say, on behalf of the After Dark Network, I apologise. We, of course, know that there would be no dark mark on your Woody Woodpecker. It would, in fact, just be a reflection off your round bald head. And with that, I want to go and introduce the fellow co-host of the show tonight, Mr. Christopher Ripley.
Hello.
And Miss Boston White Amanda.
Hi.
How the devil are we? It feels like we've not spoken for a while.
I know. Where have you been all my life?
Well, that's a question no woman has ever asked me. So that's very nice, and clearly you're mistaken by that. But yes, yeah, I don't. Well, we were supposed to call the show, which should have gone out early last week, but didn't happen. And then we had a guest who couldn't make this week's show, so we delayed recording, and we done it tonight. And in fact, I don't know if anyone else is excited, but we are recording this on Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Mere hours before kickoff, where I believe the halftime entertainment this year is provided by Lady Gaga, which I think is the correct way of pronouncing her name, isn't it? Lady Gaga. Gaga.
That's so fancy.
Sigga Gaga. Of course, American Horror Stories connection there as well for Universal After Dark listeners. So it's always in a tangent, but that should be interesting. I just watched actually Prince. Watched Prince's halftime performance again, which is probably one of the better Super Bowl halftime performances. Are generally pretty good, but I mean that's got to be up there as one of the best.
You can't beat MJ.
You know what? I haven't seen the MJ one for a long time, but that was the one that I think is when it really kicked off big time. Do you know when it really first kicked off though? The first time it kind of, because it was always college or high school bands, marching bands perform at half time, and the first time it started to really change was actually, I think it was 90, maybe 91, but New Kids on the Block.
Wow.
Who remembers them? Not many. I imagine. But so New Kids on the Block we got to thank for that thing. But yeah, it was Michael Jackson's '93 performance that really kicked it off into the kind of stratosphere. I don't think they get paid for that either.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think they pay the production costs for it. So, with Prince, he had like his big light up stage, and he had all lights and fireworks and stuff like that. I think they cough up for that, but I don't think you get a performance fee, because the way that they look at it is that the Super Bowl's broadcast in America alone to over 100 million people.
Do you mean to tell me that Janet Jackson got a boob out for nothing?
Well, less than nothing, didn't she? Because she got sued and lost.
She lost money.
She probably lost money, actually. But don't worry, because Greatest Hits sold 5 additional copies, so it all worked out well for her in the end. And in fact, because we're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday, we don't know yet who's won. Plainly going to be the New England Patriots, because that's my team, and generally they do well. But yes, we don't know. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to do some post-production. So what I'll do now is it's going to be like a time walk thing like we did at Christmas. So
Great idea.
What we're going to do, on behalf of the podcast, we want to congratulate the winners of Super Bowl 2016, which is, of course, the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots played really well and fully deserved it in what was a nail-biting game. And
shocking.
Yeah, I think so. And commiserations to the losers, who are, of course, the Atlanta Falcons. And they played okay, but
they played good rugby with pads on.
Good rugby with pads on. Which ironic, as the 5 Nations just kick off, or 6 Nations now, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know.
I think that kicks off this weekend.
I can't handle all the sport talk. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Neither do we really. We're both nerds.
Yeah. I can actually watch a game of American football and know what's going on. The problem is I don't have 6 hours of my life dedicated to watching one game of anything.
What? The problem is I would watch it, but it's on at stupid o'clock for us, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And what my normal yearly thing to do is to watch up until the halftime show performance and then go to bed, and then try and avoid the results and then watch the game at some point the next day. But I
wonder what Gary's doing. What's Gary doing?
What is Gary doing?
Gary, if you're listening, message me, Gary. I want to know what you're doing, whether you're staying up, you've got a party going on. If you've got a party going on, why haven't you invited us?
I'm going to tweet him now and ask him.
Tweet him. We need to find out, what is Gary doing? Because this is like the run up to his, this is his World Cup.
Okay.
This is World Cup, is it?
I'm going to say, Gary, what are you doing? What's it called?
The Super Bowl.
For Super Bowl.
Jesus Christ.
Right now. Dis After Dark, want to know.
And he will treat Dis After Dark like.
Wait, did you say this is his Christmas?
Well,
this is his.
This is his moment. This is his perfect moment with you. To talk to you about American.
His Martin McCutcheon. His moment.
That's right.
Because Christmas.
American listeners, she was the cleaner in Love Actually, who got off with the Prime Minister played by Hugh Grant. That's the only thing you'll know her from. So that will save you a Google if you want to know who Martin McCutcheon is. I think Gary will, if you've just tweeted out Dis After Dark want to know, I reckon Gary might give it the Atkinson Stanley treatment of Dis After Dark. Who are they exactly? Anyway, I think we've talked enough about the Super Bowl, and of course the winners of Super Bowl 2016, which of course are the New England Patriots. I don't know why I keep doing that, because that's just more post-production work for me, but anyway, that'll be fun. So thank you for joining us, and it's been a bit of a slow news week, which, that's not why we were dragging the show out at the beginning. It is Super Bowl Sunday, and it is a very important part of the American calendar, up there with Groundhog Day and Martin Luther King day as well. So something that I feel that we should have talked about. But I suppose there's a few things that we should actually discuss on here. And I think, Chris, we're going to kick off with you because there's a little rumour. Little thing you heard.
Oh, yeah.
Little thing you heard. So we thought we'd kick off with that.
But there is a juicy rumour doing the rounds at the moment. Just to give some context to the rumour, the Edison, which is this nighttime steampunk come restaurant that's being built as we speak, is currently being plonked right on the opening to what was the old Pleasure Island. So it's sort of just over opposite from Planet Hollywood, which has just opened as well. Now, this restaurant, I think they've already got one in New York. Am I right?
I don't know, what's it called?
Anyone know?
The Edison.
The Edison, after the famous inventor Edison.
Yes, yeah. I've never heard of it. I've never heard of it. I've got to be.
You never heard of it?
No, and in fact,
well, this isn't a rumour bit. This is the fact bit.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, carry on.
All right. Okay. So this is being built as we speak, and now where it gets interesting is that this restaurant should have opened by now. In fact, it was meant to open for the October-September time last year, but they're still building it. So there's been a lot of rumours as to why it's taken so long to build, and then also the other part of two parts of this rumour that adds to it. The first part is, why is there so much construction work being done below the Edison, which is interesting. But the third part of the rumour goes back to a document that was leaked in 2013. Now, this leaked document said that Disney Springs would be completely overhauled and that the Edison, Morimoto, the boathouse, would all be coming to Disney Springs, which on the document is absolutely true. At the time, none of us had a clue what was going to come, what wasn't going to come. But the document also said that there was going to be this kind of secret underground bar come lounge that was going to occupy territory near the old Adventurers Club.
Right, okay, yeah, I know what that is, yeah.
Yeah, so the name of this thing that was on the leaked document was called the Neverland Tunnels, and that the Neverland Tunnels would occupy existing utilidors that were built for Pleasure Island, and that they would take you down to a bar that would be called Walt's Bar.
So
but Disney have never confirmed nor denied any of this.
Right, so most people listening will know what you're talking about when you say utilidors, but for those that don't, because I didn't know this. Sorry, what I meant is I know what they are. What I didn't know was that they had them there. So can you just explain for our listeners what they are?
Well, the utilidors, in terms of the Magic Kingdom, are technically the ground floor level of the theme park. Everything that we see, like the Main Street and Fantasyland, Adventureland, etc., is technically all on the first floor or second floor if you're an American. So all of these tunnels run underneath the theme park, and it's used for moving, rubbish around, merchandise, costume changes, break rooms, etc. But there were utilidors underneath Pleasure Island.
And I get them because, the thing is, so the most obvious thing I think you can say for utilidors is you never see, in the Magic Kingdom, you never see somebody working an attraction in Adventureland, for example, in that costume, walking into Fantasyland or walking into Main Street, because the way they get around, as you just mentioned, is via the underground utilidors.
Yeah.
So, and that makes sense, but Pleasure Island doesn't really have those things, nor does it need that secrecy. So, it's interesting that they use the same technology.
It's probably only done, I would imagine, just because it wasn't very big. And if you've got a lot of people, at the time, a lot of party-dwelling people drink alcohol, it probably would be better
Amanda, have you heard this
to run all the beer and everything. Sorry?
Have I what?
Have you heard this rumour?
About these utilidors?
No, about people having fun partying and drinking alcohol.
No, never heard of that.
No, you're neither you nor your bog eye. Sorry, carry on.
No.
I never touch the stuff. But have you heard this rumor though, Amanda, about this bar that's supposedly coming to Disney Springs?
No.
Oh, I seem to have stumped everybody.
I know.
That's quite magnificent, though.
It is quite a magnificent one. A lot of people were speculating online that it might be similar to the Waltz restaurant that's in Disneyland Paris, that
Okay.
I think all of us here have seen or been to. I think that would be a bit too twee, a bit too boring for like a nighttime venue. I think they need to up their game a bit, because if you're going to access this, supposedly the way that you would access this is you would have to walk underneath the bridge that takes you over from the west side, and then you get a lift or something down to this bar. So they need to do something, I think, quite interesting, like a speakeasy or something that ties it into the Edison theme a little bit.
Yeah,
That's so weird.
I've got to be honest. I don't trust anyone that does anything under bridges after listening to that Red Hot Chili Peppers song. Apparently about taking heroin. Who knew? I agree in that Disneyland Paris's Waltz would make a terrible concept for that part, because it's very it's quite turn of the century, isn't it? I suppose it wouldn't go amiss in California Adventure.
Yeah, it wouldn't. That's true.
That. But for Magic Kingdom, and like you say, for what you'd probably want it for, yeah, I think that sounds a little bit too old-fashioned, really. But yeah, like a speakeasy would be good.
Well, whatever it is, the Edison is supposed to be opening this summer. So with the way construction's going, they're obviously being built together, these two things. So you would assume that they will both open in the summer.
That's good stuff. Well,
But Disney
So what you're saying then, Chris, is that we're going to have a party at a secret Disney park?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, on that theme, one thing that I saw, I don't know if you saw me, I shared it on the Facebook page, I think, but there's a Disney themed pub crawl happening. Now,
Is there?
Obviously I hoped it was inspired by this show, but it's taking part in Glasgow, so I'm guessing it's not. But yeah, so when, I'm not going. I've actually reached out to them to ask if they'd be interested in coming on to talk about it. It's happening in March at some time. I think it's run by a student group who normally organise these kind of events, these kind of pub crawl events for student, like university campuses, that kind of thing. But yeah, this has got a Disney theme, so yeah, I just thought it's quite funny that you're talking about the Edison and boozy party fun nights, and that's going on in the background as well. So
well, this is the thing, they've taken away all of the nightclubs that were at the Pleasure Island, and they've obviously made Disney Springs into this whole new concept altogether. But I think there still is a place for sort of nighttime entertainment, because adults are going to have their fun as well.
Yeah, there is a few restaurants called the Edison. One in Florida, actually, in Tallahassee.
Yeah, I think the one it's either in LA or New York. It's probably LA. Now you've said it.
There is definitely one there. But see,
it's sort of steampunk sort of design. That's what they're going with.
See, the thing is, though, the Edison could just be a code name as well. Do you know what I mean? It may not be the same. I'm just have a look at it now. Yeah, I suppose it's a bit steampunky, actually. This one in LA.
Didn't Edison invent the video camera?
No, that was Steven Spielberg. Really? No, Edison was way before that. Thomas Edison, he was way before the video camera. I think he was before the camera. God's sake.
Who invented the camera?
Colin Kodak. I just made that up. I don't know. It'd have been good if Colin Kodak did. Colin spelled with a K, obviously.
Who did invent the camera?
I don't know. This isn't
I'll ask
Cambridge.
I'm
Siri.
googling it.
Ask Gary.
Siri, who invented the camera?
Yeah, ask Gary.
Ask that Florida.
Okay, I found this.
Louis, I can't pronounce his last name. Daguerre or something
It
like
was
that.
Thomas Edison.
It says George E.
Thomas
Smith
Edison
and
invented
Louis
the motion
Daguerre.
picture camera.
Well, I take it all back. According to TripAdvisor, the Edison, 5 stars, one of the most sexiest bars in LA. Not my
Ooh.
words, the words of
Google.
somebody via mobile. P03 Zamora, the third of the P Zamoras. That's always reassuring. That's interesting. But yeah, the thing is, the Edison could just be a code name. Maybe we read it all wrong. Maybe the cover is, there's this restaurant called the Edison, and that's what's coming to Disney Springs. But maybe that's a cover for this project. Think about the Florida project.
Well, it is slightly ironic. Well, it is slightly ironic because Edison, who invented the film camera, everybody moved to Hollywood to escape the patent because he had the patent for this side of Mississippi.
Wow. So
Walt was one of those people that eventually went to LA to make his name. So it all interconnects, doesn't it?
That's interesting stuff. I do love ironic things. Like when you got 10,000 spoons.
I really thought that you were going to sing the song then.
No.
If Craig was here, he'd sing the song.
Craig would sing the song, and that's why he's banned for this episode to stop that happening. So speaking of which, my wife just saw a picture of Craig's injury that happened to me on my iPad as she walked past, and the look of shock and horror on her face. He's ghastly.
It's vile.
He's ghastly. We won't put it in the show notes. Craig might, but we definitely won't. I've the news that I wanted to talk about this week, also, funny enough, is about Disney Springs.
Oh.
Because after many rumours, lots of rumblings, and false promises, Disney Quest is closing.
Oh.
I'm never going to believe them. I'm not going to believe it until I get to Disney Springs and it's actually closed, because I feel like they say that every 6 months.
I believe the new date is July. That is closing, and then the news story said that it is going to be replaced by the NBA experience.
Yeah.
Now, see, when I saw it, when I saw this story the other day, I clicked on it expecting to see that the article was dated like 3 years before or something like that.
Yeah.
Because like you say, he keeps being said and then pushed back, but the latest is the 3rd of July. What a way to celebrate Independence Day. That's the Independence as the closing of Disney Quest. But yeah, so that's what they're saying. Now,
why does Disney want Universal sloppy seconds?
It's not even that, is it?
Yeah, nobody went in there.
Well, this is the thing. Like, from what I understand, I don't think it's going to be a restaurant. I don't think it's going to be a restaurant. Well, let's not say there isn't going to be eateries in there, because Disney Quest had Cheesecake Factory, didn't it?
Yeah,
I think. I've not been in there for a long time, but yeah, I remember that being in there. So I think it's supposed to be more like. Hang on, let's see. So this, now the other thing as well, this is on the Disney Parks blog. So that's normally pretty official when they stick something on there. Let's have a look.
But didn't they say we were going to get Hyper on Wharf, and then that never happened? That was on that blog.
That is true. Yeah, but we still ended up with Disney Springs.
Okay, all
so,
right.
I know what you're saying, but as we've previously shared, all right, show-offs. Thomas Smith. Yeah. As previously shared, the NBA experience of Walt Disney World would be a one-of-a-kind, it's clearly not because it was universal, basketball-themed experience featuring hands-on activities to put guests of all ages right in the middle of NBA game action. There will be immersive NBA video productions and numerous interactive experiences, as well as a restaurant and a retail store. So that sounds like it's going to be, because I mean, I don't think we ate in there, but what I remember of NBA, what was it called? NBA City Walk? No, NBA. Was it just called NBA City?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so I remember the basketball courts outside the restaurant. First mistake, if you ask me, because they should have been in the restaurant to draw you in. But it was just a restaurant, wasn't it? With like a gift shop.
With like games outside in like the lobby bit.
Right.
I never went in there.
I never went into the restaurant bit really, but like they had like a little tiny basketball hoopy thing in the lobby bit that like I couldn't ever reach an actual basketball net, so that was the only glory that I had.
Well, I think isn't it 10 foot, 9 foot?
I don't know.
It's the height of an NBA regulated hoop. Is that far off the ground? It's something like it's big. It's big. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I thought the NBA was on a bit of a downward spiral, popularity.
Well, yeah, still is, I think.
Yeah. So it's a bit odd. It's a bit like if see, when people they talked about the WWE Hall of Fame, WWF for old listeners, of course, not the World Wildlife Fund, the wrestling. Which actually annoyed me. The other week, I tried to get accosted by somebody in my local shopping centre, trying to raise, trying to get you to sign up for charities, and she stopped me, and I said, "Oh, what charity are you?" And she said, she said WWF, and I was like, "The pandas or the wrestlers?" And she said, "Pandas." I said, "See you later." I'll never forgive him for that. But they, yeah, so they were talking for a long time. There'd been lots of rumours that they were going to open a physical Hall of Fame. So for those that don't watch wrestling or WrestleMania, which is of course the Super Bowl of wrestling, every year they have a Hall of Fame ceremony where they'll induct up to about 10 wrestlers a year to go into this Hall of Fame.
And one president.
And now one president. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's Trump, not Bush. And so they were talking about physical location, and because they have their training kind of feeder school based in Florida at Full Sail University, there's been lots of talk about it coming to Orlando, and it was actually NBA City was one of the places they earmarked. It was going to be one of they were looking at that location at Universal, and they were looking at one somewhere on iDrive, but I'm not sure if it was north or south iDrive. But as yet, nothing's been done. But a lot of people, when you talk about wrestling, they go, "Oh, downward spiral, not as popular as it was," and it's not. But they still shift an enormous amount of tickets per year. But the NBA at one point was like, I think, the second biggest sport in America after football. But it's definitely.
See, I heard that. Well, I heard Orlando Magic, they rent their stadium out to concerts, and they make more money doing that than the actual basketball.
Really? That's interesting.
I don't know if it's true.
Because they, funny enough, they also have WWF events there as well.
Mm.
They host WWF Raw sometimes at that venue. I can't remember what it's called. Is it the Amway?
Yeah,
Amway Centre? Yeah, in downtown. Yeah, so yeah, I still think it's an odd. I think it's an odd fit. And I mean, from what I've seen of Disney Springs, would it not be a little bit cheap? Like a bit tacky to that part of the world? That part of Disney Springs seems to be a little bit posh. But that doesn't really. Or am I wrong? Is it? Am I looking at it wrong?
It's the west side. I mean, the theme up the west side is a little bit all over the place. It's a bit Vegas up that end, I think.
Yeah, because they've still got. Guy Fieri's Planet Hollywood just opened, didn't it? Well, it's not. I mean, it's not his Planet Hollywood, but it's his menu, isn't it? But yeah, I know that's just opened up. Right, anyone seen any reviews of that?
I've only seen negative reviews.
Really?
Not bad reviews, but not ones where people just like, really? Is this it? Kind of
I've
reviews.
heard that the milkshakes are pretty good.
But small.
Hmm.
That was the complaint that I was reading online.
See, I don't know if he's done the whole menu, but whenever I've read reviews of his restaurants, he's got quite a few restaurants, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Across America, and they've always been pretty crap.
Oh no.
I think it's just unlike because Wolfgang Puck is a celebrity chef, isn't he?
Yeah.
In that kind of vein. Is that still there, by the way?
Yeah.
Springs, yeah, okay. And you know, and like Gordon Ramsay's the same, and he's got a few restaurants, but they tend to be quite well reviewed. But his don't. I think it's just the name value that sells it.
I don't know who he is.
He hosts a show, and this is another thing, because this didn't make any sense like being British, right? His show is called Diners. I get that part. Drive-ins. Get that part. And Dives. Right? Now, to me, a dive is somewhere you wouldn't go.
Yeah, and also, do drive-ins still exist?
Well, McDonald's do drive-throughs, don't they?
No, but not a drive-through, a drive-in.
But if you and this will be appropriate to you, Amanda. If you went to McDonald's and you wanted a veggie burger,
Yeah,
how long would you wait for a veggie burger?
probably about half an hour.
There you go. So what do? You go to the drive-in.
And they go,
Drive-through.
can you just park up and bay 3 for us, love?
And what do they do?
Make me park.
And after half an hour,
Then they bring it to me.
there you go. That's
That's not a real drive-in.
Doesn't matter. It's a drive-in.
Guy Fieri, you're lying to me.
But a dive. So what the term is there? So a dive is a dive bar, which again doesn't sound very appealing. But a dive bar is kind of what we'd refer to as a gastropub. In that it's a bar that does food.
So it's not a dive then, like in the English.
It's not a dive as in
vernacular.
English, exactly.
Which we would call a flea-ridden pit that no one should go to.
Exactly. Which, funny enough, is one of the TripAdvisor reviews for one of Guy Fieri's restaurants. may or may not be true. But
Probably is.
the thing is, so he does that show, and over in the UK, I think it's on the Food Network. And they also show Man vs. Food. Now, I saw Man vs. Food first, so I've always liked Adam Richmond.
Yeah, I like Adam.
A lot of people saw that first, so like Guy Fieri. And I don't like him. I don't think he's as nice a host. He puts on the charm a little bit, don't get me wrong, but it seems more false.
He's like their version of Anthony Worrell Thompson.
He's stealing bottles of wine out of Tesco's.
Yeah.
That may or may not be factually right.
Allegedly. Yeah. We're getting good at our legal disclaimers on this program now.
We have to now. But yeah, so the thing is, I think it's name value, and I mean, Planet Hollywood over the years has had has run into quite a few troubles. Did you know they had a Marvel restaurant as well, Planet Hollywood?
Did they?
I don't think they actually opened it. I think it might have actually been at Universal that it was going to be opened, but there was going to be a restaurant called Marvel Mania. And there was also Planet Cool. It was going to be, and Planet Cool was going to be like an ice cream kind of venue. So it's just going to specialise in ice cream, like a gelato bar or something. But yeah, I mean, Planet Hollywood back in the 90s had well over 100 locations, and I think there's about 12 now.
Are they owned by the same bloke that owns the Earl of Sandwich?
They were.
Oh, they were?
I don't know if they still are.
Oh, okay.
But at some point, yes, they definitely were.
They're doing a gelato challenge at the Disney Springs one, where they bring out 12 scoops of different flavoured gelato. Or for American listeners, gelato. And you have to guess what all 12 flavours are. And the rumour is if you can guess all 12, then you get your whole bill for free.
Let's do it.
It sounds,
Challenge accepted.
it sounds
Yeah, challenge
good.
accepted.
It sounds good, but what the thing is, right? And Amanda, please don't take offence as being a vegetarian, right? But
I'll try.
it's a little bit like a few years ago, Walker's Crisps, which in America is Lay's, same company, did a range of unique flavours, and there was about 6 different bags of crisps, and they told you what they were, and you could vote for your favourite flavour, and whichever one got the most votes was going to be turned into a permanent run of crisps afterwards. And one of them was like Cajun squirrel.
What?
It was squirrel of some kind. I'm not talking that long ago. I'm talking 2010 maybe, around that kind of time. It's not that long ago. But one of them was a squirrel flavoured crisp, and I'm sure it was Cajun squirrel. I'm not entirely sure. It was squirrel something, right? But my argument with that is, how the hell can you turn around and say, oh yeah, that tastes like squirrel? Because most people won't know what squirrel tastes like. I don't know what squirrel tastes like. Were the crisps nice? Yes. Did they taste of squirrel? No idea. So my problem with that kind of challenge is, what if you got a flavour like that and it tastes, I don't know, a bit chocolatey or something, and they turn around and say it's something else?
So not only have you got to be an expert in varieties of vermin that you can eat, you've also got to pick your spices out to make sure the spices are exactly Cajun and not Southern fried or some other.
This is what I mean. It's ludicrous. So I'm up for the challenge, but I just feel that there's a chance that there might be a few kinks, allegedly, in proceedings. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, who doesn't love ice cream?
Well, we'll be a bit stuffed if one of the flavours is pulled pork or something. That's for sure.
No, because only Amanda can't eat it.
That's what I mean. If we're doing it,
Yeah.
If it looks brown and smells meaty, Amanda
Chris
won't try.
can have it.
Yeah,
yeah,
easily done. Who doesn't like meaty flavour ice cream?
Hey, Dis After Dark listeners. I want to invite you all to join us over on ScareZone, Halloween Horror Nights podcast. ScareZone is a news, interview, history, and commentary podcast all about Universal's premier Halloween event. It's hosted by fans and experts like me, Logan Seculo, former WWE superstar Scotty 2 Hottie, and Dis After Dark's own Chris Ripley. Subscribe however you get podcasts and head over to ScareZone.com for more information. We here at the show are proud supporters of Dis After Dark. And remember, keep your eyes closed and your ears open on ScareZone.
Speaking of meaty flavour ice cream, Amanda. I don't know what that segue was, by the way.
I know. What?
Someone had to. Was there anything you wanted to pick up? And I think there's a few things that you saw.
Yep, I've got a few little pieces of news. So the musical lineup for Epcot Flower and Garden Festival's been announced.
Ooh.
And there's a weird one, right, that, I mean, usually when Epcot have bands on, it's bands that aren't too relevant anymore. So they're kind of older music, maybe from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, blah, blah, blah. But our friend Hunter tweeted out the other day that Simple Plan are playing, which is weird because they are still pretty relevant.
I've heard a Simple Plan. Why have I heard a Simple Plan?
They were like pretty big in like the pop punky kind of scene in the 2000s, like early 2000s. But they've still got quite a lot of fans, so it surprised me that they're going to play. Yeah,
but then that's the thing with Plain White Tees. That sounds like a similar kind of thing, or Smash Mouth.
Well, I mean, they were quite a lot bigger than Plain White Tees were, but also Plain White Tees are coming back for Flower and Garden Festival. So they must have done good at Food and Wine. But all the musical acts are going to take place on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday this year. So usually it's just Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Holy jeebus.
So we've got John Cicada. I don't know who that is.
You don't? Yeah, you do. No,
I don't.
Okay.
Sing me a song.
His biggest hit is Just Another Day.
Right, I don't know what that
And
is.
it's legitimately in my top 20 songs of all time.
Dang it.
Like, if you want to YouTube it in the background, that's fine.
Right,
So
I'm gonna look
we're
this.
1 for 1 so far because I know who John Cicada is.
Okay, Dennis DeYoung.
Dennis DeYoung. That name rings a bell. I think he may have been like the front man for somebody.
Well, it says Dennis DeYoung, the music of Styx.
Oh, well, there you go then.
Then we've got the Pointer Sisters.
The Pointer Sisters. Did they do?
They sing I'm So Excited.
That's it. Yes. I couldn't
Right,
think
I
what it was
found
called.
John Cicada.
We're only allowed 15 seconds before we get charged royalties, by the way.
No, I've never heard it.
You've never heard it? Oh,
Never heard that.
beautiful song. You can listen to the whole lot after. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we've got Simple Plan and Plain White Tears. Then we've got Night Ranger,
Nope.
Little River Band,
Yeah, I've heard Little River Band. What did they sing? Let's have a look.
Reminiscing is what they sing apparently. Is their biggest hit.
There was an Australian rock band, so if only we had Lewis on this week.
I know.
He could have
Lewis would
told us.
go straight with his Australian music.
Yeah.
Then we've got Blood, Sweat and Tears,
No, never heard of them actually.
Gin Blossoms,
Heard of Gin Blossoms, yeah. They were big in the... not big, but they were popular in the mid to late 90s, I think.
Nope, never heard of them. The Orchestra,
Well, they're very popular. I mean, you see them when you go and see a musical quite often. Don't you?
yeah. Then we've got Expose.
Expose, I've heard of them.
I have
They
not.
like a disco band?
I have no idea.
Let's have a look. Expose group. American freestyle vocal group. Seasons Change. Actually, I don't think I do recognise them.
Nope, I've never heard of them. Berlin.
Well, you know who Berlin are.
I know who Berlin are.
Yeah.
They're like one of 3 so far that I know. Starship are coming back. Starship seem to be at every single musical thing that Epcot ever do. They just love it.
They do love Starship, yeah.
I know. The Guess Who.
Okay.
They sing American Woman.
That was their biggest hit, yeah. I'd argue.
Herman's Hermits. Herman's Hermits.
Yep. So they were. I think Herman's Hermits were something tells me I'm into something good.
I have no idea.
They were a. They were like a band in the 60s.
Well, it says here their biggest hit is I'm Henry VIII I Am. And I've defo never heard of them.
I'm Henry VIII I Am.
Nope, never heard of it. Then we've got the Spinners. The Spinners are going to be the last band to play.
The Spinners. I'm into something good was their biggest hit. Something tells me I'm in something good.
I think there's more that I know there than what there usually is at Food and Wine.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I wouldn't go especially to see any of them, but if I was in Epcot and one of them were playing, I'd probably go and see Simple Plan or Plain White Tears again, because Plain White Tears are pretty good at Food and Wine last year.
Well, you heard how good John Cicada is. I think the thing is, I always find the lineups a bit odd because the problem with Food and Wine, or the problem with Flower and what?
Flower and Garden.
Flower and Garden. The problem with these festivals, yeah, they are festivals. The problem with these things is that the staging is relatively small.
Yes.
The areas they have the acts is also very small.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, you can't really get big name acts there because
That is true.
you know you couldn't get like a Justin Bieber there or Nicki Minaj or an Aerosmith or someone like that, because they're artists that fill massive venues. So you're kind of catching people that are either on the comeback trail or on the downward spiral. Really?
Yeah.
And that's
Pretty much.
and that's not it's not to say they're not good or anything like that, but just like the popularity isn't there anymore. So it's interesting. I think when we were there, I think I saw Peter Nesmith, maybe. It was one of the Monkeys.
Hmm.
Might have been Davy Jones, actually. I know it wasn't Dolenz, but anyway. So and it was good. It was nice, but like you say, I don't think there's anyone that I'd necessarily go just for that. But I think with some of those acts, I mean, a lot of them are very nostalgic.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Epcot bank on.
Yeah. So it's that
is
thing
that people are going to go for the nostalgia,
Yeah.
But then they quite regularly have Hanson, and Hanson still have a very big following.
That is very true. I mean, they're not. I mean, they do and they don't. I mean, they still play regularly, but I mean, they don't play massive venues, I don't think.
No, but I think they do have like the kind of like for our English listeners, like Busted. So Busted will come back and they'll do a tour, and all the people that liked them back in the early 2000s will always go and see them, even if they don't like any of the new stuff. They'll go and see them for nostalgic reasons, and I think Hanson's very much like that. Then they have their own beer as well at the American Pavilion. Yes,
I've heard that. Is it Hop?
Yeah.
Very good, by the way.
Yeah.
Very good name. Listen, Hanson, smart marketing there. I'm gonna admit to something. It's not often I admit to something on this show, but every now and again I like to embarrass myself publicly and say something that I'll later regret about myself that you probably shouldn't admit publicly. But
it's my favourite time.
Mine's normally cause time, but I'm out of cause at the moment. Well, actually, I'm not. I just can't bother to walk outside and get a bottle. But on that thing about nostalgia and seeing bands on the comeback, whether you like the new music and everything like that, I love Steps.
Do you?
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not. That's not really my kind of music at all, really. And my musical taste is very varied. Like I love Prince, I love Bowie, I like a lot of older stuff actually, so like Kinks, Beatles, Jam, that kind of rocky music. When I was growing up, it was all about Britpop for me, so Blur, Oasis. I like bands like Nirvana as well, Green Day, early Green Day, and stuff like that. So it's not in my normal musical lexicon. But I have a soft spot for like them and S Club 7 as well.
What?
I would definitely go and see Steps live.
Would you?
I was very pleased to see that they're on the comeback trail again. I didn't see them I've never seen them live, and I didn't see them on the comeback trail last time. But I believe that there is a new album in the offering.
Oh God.
And more dates. So yeah, I'm kind of tempted. The problem is I've got no one to go with. No one is that sad.
Yeah, I'm not going to see Steps with you.
Yeah, no one will, which is, so it's like I'm going to have to go by myself. But, yes, there you go. So, there you go, Lee. At the beginning of the show, I had a little joke at your expense. Now, you've got one at mine. Right, so it's time to talk about the other sponsor we have for the After Dark Podcast Network. And, gents, if you were thinking, as you have done previously and you will do again, if you was thinking about booking a trip to one of the parks that we've talked about, who would you think of asking or at least approaching?
Well, there's only one name that springs to mind only.
Wendy. So Wendy's so famous, she's only got one name, like Madonna or Cher. Well, it's not actually true. She has two, because she's got a surname as well, which is Prater. So of course, Wendy Prater at Magical Journeys Travels. We're so well prepared with this. It's like we've been practicing all day, finishing off each other's
sentences.
Sandwiches. For God's sake. This is totally unorganised. But we may be unorganised, but Wendy is not.
Oh, smooth.
You see?
I love how you did that.
That's what she's there for.
I'm a big fan of your work.
Oh, well, we're a big fan of Wendy's work, which is the point more than that. Whether you've been to Disney 1 or 100 times, there's still lots of planning involved, and I think we can all attest to that.
Yep. And their burgers are good as well.
They are. They are. And of course, now with Magic Bands, everything else is even more complex. I mean, geez, the last time I went, it was much easier than it is nowadays. So, Wendy can be the person to take away that pain of getting a reservation for Be Our Guest. Where, friend of the show, that Florida guy just tried the grey stuff.
Yeah.
Hasn't reported back yet as to what it tasted like. And, you could try and get a fast pass for Anna and Elsa. Now, if us mere muggles or mortals tried to get a fast pass for Be Our Guest or Anna and Elsa meet and greets, how successful do you think we would be?
Well, I've already failed. I didn't get an ADR for Be Our Guest.
See?
So I wish I'd gone to Wendy for that one.
Wendy, not just the home of good burgers, but the home of good travel planning. So visit Wendy at wpmagicjourneys.com, or you can contact her on Twitter at wpmagicjourneys. And of course, if you mention that you heard one of our amazing podcasts, and that's how you got to hear of Wendy, she'll give you $25 off your deposit for any trip package. And our own Mr. Ripley at the moment has been on one of the Disney cruises, and she's able to offer generous onboard credits for Disney Cruise Lines as well. Something to bear in mind. So if you are thinking of making a trip, before you go anywhere else, go and find Wendy Pratt at Magical Journeys Travels, wpmagicjourneys.com.
Because if you don't, you'll feel like a Pratt.
Yes.
Had that for free. Amanda, was there anything else you wanted to talk about tonight?
Yeah, so there's a rumour that we could potentially maybe see Rivers of Light actually come this month.
I mean, is that the same rumour mill that tells us that Disney Quest is closing?
Well, I don't believe anything anymore.
So
I don't know what to believe.
So Rivers of Light, I'm pretty sure we talked about when you first joined us about a year ago.
Yeah, so it was supposed to start in like April or May of last year, and then it just didn't happen. And then it's kind of turned into a running joke within like the theme park community now. And so nobody's really making a big deal of it, and I don't think that they will make a big deal of it anyway if it comes out. I think it'll just happen. And then everyone will be like, oh, well, yeah, it's a thing now. But they were doing the cast member previews of it in December.
Okay.
And now it's apparently there's going to be, all the staff have been told that they could be scheduled to work in that theatre from a certain day of February. They don't know why, but it's pointing towards Rivers of Light going ahead this month. Well, I'm not holding my breath.
Now, am I right in thinking, because you know what, it's so long since I talked about it, I've actually forgotten what it is, but isn't it supposed to be like a nighttime water pageant type thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, is there much benefit of doing it now? Should they just not hold off for Avatar?
I mean, the smart thing would probably be to hold off until Avatar, but maybe they want to start it early to get it up and running so that they've got it down to a T by the time Avatar comes along to kind of crowd control.
Yeah, no, that's reasonable. Did you speaking of Avatar, did you see the supposed image taken from inside the main attraction?
Yeah, of what the ride apparently looks like. The ride vehicle.
What do you think of that picture?
I can't see that being actually what you're going to be on.
No, I can't either.
Because if you haven't seen the picture, it's like I don't even know how to describe, but you basically be like straddled on a thing.
Do you know what? I think the only way I could possibly describe it is imagine your beloved ET attraction.
Yeah.
Now, how many bikes go up at once?
Like 12.
Yeah. So imagine that. So imagine you're on ET, you sit on one of the 12 bikes, and as you sit on the 12th bike, or the one bike, whichever way you want to look at it, the other 11 get removed, and then you go off. That's the only way I can possibly describe it, because it looks like it's a single creature that you sit on, which might take more than one person, but it doesn't look... It certainly was not what I was expecting, and if they're talking about it being a game changer, then I think, if anything, it's a step back in time.
Yeah, I mean, like how I could maybe describe it is like when you are sat on a horse on a carousel, and so you kind of straddled around it, and you have the ones that you have for kids, where like maybe a kid and a parent can sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that.
I've got it.
But quite big.
A bucking bronco for more than one person.
Yeah, and I'm like, surely that would never work. I just don't see that working. I don't think that it's real.
No. So I'm taking it with a pinch of salt. Now, if it was like, the only thing that I could understand it possibly being is, like in some attractions, you've got like a demo. So that's probably the right expression. But what I mean is, like, when you go on Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, for example, they've got the seat that you can sit on outside. Mm-hmm. So you can make sure that you are size appropriate for the attraction. I think that's what it's for, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be that there's something like that in the ride queue to show you what you will need to sit on, so you can see if it's comfortable. I don't know, but do you know what I mean? That image by itself, doesn't look like what I think the attraction can be.
No. It surprised me, and I 100% felt like it just wasn't, like, no.
Yeah, just odd. But speaking of Avatar, did you see the Avatar news this week?
What was it?
So in the week that they've pretty much announced that, and made me very sad, that 3D TVs are going to be no more, effectively. Everyone's stopping making 3D TVs. That James Cameron has finished the script for Avatar 5.
All right.
Now, I know what you're thinking.
Dear.
No, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking that you were thinking that 5, but we haven't had 2 yet. You're quite correct. And so 2, 3, 4, and 5 have been written, with the idea they start filming them, and I think back to back this year. So apparently they're actually going to start filming Avatar 2 in August of this year.
Right.
For release Christmas 2018. Now that's the belief at the moment. Now, what will be interesting is that episode 8 comes out this Christmas. The Last Jedi. Sorry, we've got a title now. The Last Jedi. Last Jedi comes out this Christmas. If the pattern carries on, it means that Christmas 2018 will be when Han Solo should be released. That solo movie they're doing at the moment. But it'll be interesting to see if they move it because of Avatar. Because they will be, obviously Fox will be expecting Avatar to be a massive success, like the first one was.
Do you think it will be?
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
I've mulled this over so much since they first announced Avatar World, or Avatar Land, or World of Pandora, whatever they're calling it. Pandora at Animal Kingdom, because by the time they announced it, I think they announced it in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just before they bought Lucasfilm. So they announced it, and by that time, Avatar was coming up to being 3 years old.
Yeah.
It had become the biggest film of all time, but there was nothing else to keep that momentum up. Now,
Yeah.
can you imagine if Star Wars got released in 1977? By the way, you don't have to like think about it too much because that actually did happen. But if they made Star Wars and then George Lucas said, right, I'm going to make Star Wars 2, and then 8 years afterwards, 9 years afterwards, he released The Empire Strikes Back, I don't think the enthusiasm would be there. Like, I don't think it would have been as successful as it was.
Exactly. And I kind of feel like Avatar was so successful because we hadn't really seen things like that before.
Yeah, and I mean the reason, because I mean I remember reading sci-fi magazines. So when I was a kid, I used to be really, really geeky. I'm geeky now, but not like I used to be.
I was literally just going to say, are you not still?
Not to the same level. But I used to buy this magazine called SFX. I'm not even sure if it's still published anymore in the UK, but I remember reading James Cameron was going to make this film called Avatar back in about 1995, 96. That's how far back he was actually publicly talking about it. And he basically said, I've got this idea for this film, and I'm waiting for technology to catch up before I can make it. That was his thing. So he had the idea for Avatar for all that time. And then, you know, obviously advances happened, and, you know, new cameras and new techniques and all this kind of stuff. And eventually he felt that he could make the film that he wanted to make. That was also George Lucas's kind of argument with the Star Wars prequels. The reason why there was such a big gap between Return of the Jedi and The Phantom Menace was because he was waiting for advances in technology, which actually don't make sense if you think about it, because surely if they're prequels they should look older than the first films. So why are you waiting for those advances? And that's another reason why they don't work so well, in my opinion. But anyway, so Avatar was always about the technology. And you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I'd seen Chicken Little in 3D, and I saw the Polar Express at IMAX 3D, but there wasn't a lot of 3D films.
Yeah.
And then Avatar came out, and because of the special effects, and because of how they tried to make the film, the 3D was pretty much like nothing I'd seen before in a film. It was a bit like, I suppose, when you saw like Captain Air or something for the first time, which now looks very dated, but when you saw it for the first time, it was like, well, that's impressive. But it was like a 2.5 hour version of that.
Yeah.
And it was immersive. But the time I tried to watch Avatar in 2D on telly, I was like, it's just Dances with Smurfs, isn't it? Like,
well,
it's Dancing with Wolves and Smurfs, essentially.
So I went to go and see Avatar when it came out in the cinema, and I went to go and see it in 3D. And I really did like it, and I thought it was a brilliant film. But if someone was to say to me now, hey, do you want to just watch Avatar on the telly? I'd be like, no, you're all right.
Yeah. And
like, I'm not interested in rewatching it.
No.
I'm definitely not interested in rewatching it not in 3D.
Yeah. Now, I bought it in 3D. I bought that and Titanic as like a special 2-pack.
Titanic in 3D?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So when 3D TVs first came out, so after Avatar and the whole 3D revolution kind of kicked off again around 2010, a lot of the studios thought there's money to be made here. So they remastered and re-released some of their classic films. So they redid Titanic. They released that for like a week or two at cinemas. It was only like limited engagement, but just as a way to like boost its numbers again. So they released that, and Jurassic Park, the first Jurassic Park, got a 3D re-release. Now, without trying to go too geeky on this, people's problem with 3D, especially crappy 3D films, of which there are quite a few, is that 3D films are done two ways. You either film it with a 3D camera, or you convert it in post-production into a 3D feature, which is generally how 3D animated films are done. And a lot of films will film in 2D and then will in post-production convert it to 3D. And if it's not done well, it looks terrible and cheap and doesn't add anything to the experience. And that was certainly what was happening a lot with films at the birth of... So you got Avatar, which was really good, and Alice in Wonderland, that was quite good. But then you had things like Clash of the Titans and The Last Airbender, and they were crap. Really terrible 3D, like the 3D didn't work properly, and you know, you basically paying a premium to see a film much darker with no added advantage. So it kind of flopped, but they then took these old films, and if they spent time doing them, they spent enough time and money doing the conversions, they actually work really well. If you see the 3D version of Jurassic Park or Titanic, you wouldn't believe they hadn't been filmed in 3D initially. Really, really impressive stuff. And so quite often, actually, a post-converted film can look better than a film filmed in 3D because they work the shots out better. So so it's actually really good. Jurassic Park in 3D is brilliant, honestly, amazing stuff. So I bought both of those to watch on TV, and I haven't watched Avatar again yet, but I bought it knowing that that's the only way I'm going to watch it again, because watching it in 2D, and I lasted about half an hour, I think it was on telly once. It's a long film anyway.
Yeah.
At least when you're watching it in 3D, it just it adds something to the film. It makes it look better than it is. It distracts you from the crappy story. So I think unless James Cameron has really, and I mean, all right, he's written now 5 films. That's his thing, or like four additional films. So
what's he gonna do, right? If 2 absolutely flops and he's written 3, 4, and 5?
I have got no idea. Because, I mean, this is what happened with, is it Insurgent? Is that the film series?
I don't know.
So, obviously Harry Potter was a big success and Twilight was a big success. So then they were like, right, what teenage books can we turn into films? So we got The Hunger Games, which was very successful initially and kind of died off a little bit. And then there was like a few others, like Percy Jackson was one of them, I think. But they were just trying to find the next Harry Potter, and they didn't work. And there was one, I think it was called Insurgent, and the first one was called Insurgent, and the second one was called Divergent or something. I don't know. Kate Winslet was in them as like the villain, I think, and it was Shailene Woodley. Is that her name?
No idea.
Yeah, she's a young actress. Anyway, so they filmed the first 2 or 3 of those, and it might have been the first 2, I can't remember. But basically, when they announced the next one, because the last one had really dropped off financially and what it earned at the box office, they were like, oh yeah, the next one we're going to just turn into a TV series. And the stars are like, well, that's not what our contract says. So if you want to do the third one without us, that's fine. If you want to do like a TV version of it, that's fine, but you won't have us in it. So it'll be interesting because it'll be whatever he's worked out with Fox, because they're funding it. So if Fox have turned around and said, look, we'll pay you $800 million or $1 billion to make these 5 films, then it's probably not too much skin off their nose. Because at the end of the day, even if the first Avatar is still the biggest film of all time. I think it took about $2.5 billion. There or thereabouts. As long as it makes back its budget, they'll be all right. And I think globally, they were successful enough. It was obviously that successful that even if it did, I still reckon that Avatar 2 will do half the business of Avatar 1.
Yeah.
At a minimum. It could turn out to be really good and everyone loves it and great. But I do worry that the time it's taken them, how much of these new Avatar films is going to be in Pandora.
Exactly.
The Animal Kingdom I'm talking about, not the film.
I mean, I will go and see number 2 purely just because of Animal Kingdom. If it wasn't coming to Animal Kingdom as a land, I don't think I'd bother.
Yeah.
But I'll go just for that reason. And I'm really excited about Pandora.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, ever since we've just turned 5 doing Dis After Dark, and since it was first announced, we had no interest. You know, we always said about how like it was a silly decision and you know it's going to flop, mainly because of the reason we just said, really. But it's just not going to be successful. And the more you see of what they're doing, it's going to look stunning. It's going to
Yeah,
look
it's
great.
really beautiful. And I feel like it's what Animal Kingdom needs, because Animal Kingdom is a half-day park.
Yeah.
And it does need something that can be really immersive and can take quite a lot of your time up in the park. So that's why I'm the most excited about it. And they could have done really anything that was going to be really immersive, and I would have been down for it. I am really, really excited about it.
I mean, the animatronics look amazing.
Yeah.
For example, and the landscaping, and you know these supposed like interactive plants and stuff, like you see in the film. I mean, the thing is, what they wanted it to be was the Wizarding World. They wanted it to be Disney's version of the Wizarding World, in that you walked into this world they'd created, and you would feel that you were on Pandora. That was how it's positioned.
Yeah.
When it first started.
And I really hope that's going to be. But kind of feel like it's not going to be as immersive as Harry Potter.
I don't know, because the thing is, everything I've seen so far suggests that it should be.
Right, well, last week on Universal After Dark, we were talking about our top 3 things to do. And one of mine was that I feel like people should spend an entire day doing Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade, and I could do that. And I feel like you need that to be able to see everything. And I really, really hope that Pandora is going to be like that. But I feel like Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley are so immersive, and it is exactly like being in the films.
I think the problem is with those areas is that we had 7 films.
Yeah.
Now, just because we're going to get 5 films, potentially, hopefully overall, we're building up to that. Whilst by the time that the Wizarding World opened, you know, just when Hogsmeade opened, I'm talking about, we'd had, I think, 5 Harry Potter films by that point. So therefore, you know, we had 5 films worth of material of what we had in our heads of what things were like. We've got 2.5 hours of the same so far. So like by that point, we had about 10, 11, 12 hours worth of Harry Potter. By the time Hogsmeade opened, we've had 2.5 hours of Pandora. So the thing is, there's only, I think you're right in a way, but hopefully there's designing it with those additional films in mind. That's the thing. I hope that's what they've done, but I don't know if that's what they've done. So if they have, maybe it will be. But, you know, needless to say, they're throwing a lot of money that way. And, you know, I hope that it does do what they expect it to do. I hope it is as immersive. The problem is, I don't think you can compare the two. You know, Avatar made a shed load of money, but you can't compare it to Harry Potter. One, they're completely different franchises, completely different audiences. But also, one had the books, one had the films. This has just been a film.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. It's interesting, and I will still, you know, say to like my dying day of this podcast that had they knew that Lucasfilm was on the table 3 months prior to that deal being struck, that deal would have been off the table.
Yeah, I agree.
And but at the same time, it probably would have been Universal's third game.
Yeah.
I think someone would have taken it. I do think someone would have taken it.
Yeah. I feel like Animal Kingdom's such a hard park, though. Because what else could you put in Animal Kingdom?
Well, unfortunately now, and this is what Jim Hill alluded to a few episodes back, Zootopia.
I don't think that'd work, though.
You could get some decent attractions out of it.
I feel like they'd have to go down the route of doing a kind of Epcot type of thing with the World Showcase, like doing an attraction for each kind of place.
Okay, yeah, I can see what you're saying.
I feel like they'd have to go down that route because, I mean, there's only so much animal-y type of things that they could do. Like Expedition Everest, nothing to do with animals, and it's probably the main attraction of the park.
Oh, I don't
So
know,
I
it's got
feel
a
like-
Yeti.
Well, yeah. But I feel like that's the kind of route that they'd have to go down if they weren't going to do Pandora.
Hashtag Disco Yeti.
Yeah, Disco Yeti.
Love him. So, Chris, you've been very quiet. Do you want to add anything to the conversation? No? Okay, fine.
So's Chris. But
We cut him off. He was boring us.
we kicked him out.
No, if anyone does wonder, Chris had to jump off the record early, that's all. I'm sure you must know by now what the hell's happened. And it's not that we haven't let him talk, he's just not been here to talk. So, yeah. Was there anything else, or is that kind of the news?
There's one more thing, and it is that Disney have introduced a new Ultimate Disney Classics VIP tour.
Pray tell.
So we mentioned a little bit in, I think it was on Universal After Dark again, that our friend Logan had done the VIP tour at Magic Kingdom.
Yes.
And it was, I think Chris said that when he priced up, it was very, very expensive.
Wasn't it something like, because I only listened to
I think it was like £4,000 or something like that.
It was,
dollars.
yeah, it was a lot. 'Cause I think it wasn't it by the hour?
I think
They
so.
priced it by the hour, so and that's how much it would be for the full day. It would be
Yeah.
$4,000, yeah.
Well, it's very, very expensive when compared to the Universal one.
Mm.
But they've introduced a new one now, which is $199, so it's comparable in price to the Universal one. But this one you can't do any of the rides that have a height requirement, basically.
So that's nearly
So-
everything then.
Well, it's things like you can't do Space Mountain, you can't do Big Thunder Mountain, you can't do Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. It's literally things like The Little Mermaid, Peter Pan, It's a Small World.
If it's got a mountain in it, in the title, you can't
Yeah.
go on it, effectively.
Basically,
Yeah.
no go if it's got a mountain in it.
So, do you reckon that's because of listening to Universal After Dark and thought, you know what, we've got to pull our fingers out here? Do you think it's down to us that this is
They
happening?
must have.
Yeah.
They must have been all us.
Yeah.
And they must have thought, hey, they're into this Universal VIP tour. Let's get them on Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable. So how long's that tour for?
So it's for 4 hours.
Okay.
So it's not a very long tour, but I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that would be worth it. It says that you can experience up to 10 things. So, I mean, maybe if you were going for your first time and you had very small kids and you wanted to make sure that you got everything done, you can do up to 10 different attractions.
Sorry. So there's still actually a limit to what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, if you're doing things like Haunted Mansion, Pirates, Jungle Cruise, things like you'd probably be hard pushed to do more than 10.
Yep.
Anyway, with the height requirement thing. But I feel like it's just kind of a paid express pass. That's the feeling that I'm getting from it. Like, you want to do all these things with your, like, small children for the day. We can make sure that you get the majority of things done that you want to do. You can meet Mickey Mouse as well, so that's included in it. So you can go to Town Square, you can meet Mickey. But if you're in a family of like 4, it's $200 a person.
Yeah, and there's no backstage for that, is there?
No.
So I mean, when I hear tour, I suppose the thing is, like, to me, when I hear a tour in a theme park, I'm expecting like a behind the scenes thing.
Yeah.
So if it was that plus the ability to kind of get fast tracks onto rides, or because I mean, I think you were saying as well, Chris was saying as well that was actually only to get into the fast pass queue. It wasn't even getting you to the front of the line.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of crazy. So, yeah, if it was a backstage tour and that, I could kind of go, okay, fair enough. But it doesn't sound. Yeah, I don't think I'd be rushing to do that. Not for $200 a pop.
No. Because if you're smart enough with your fast passes, you'd be able to get it done anyway.
True. No, that is a good point. Well, I think that's quite a lot actually. I thought for an episode where we had nothing to talk about, I think we've done all right. I just wanted to say thank you. We've had our first patron. I'm not sure if they're a patron or Patreon because that's the website, but whatever. We've had our first backer, so I just wanted to give out a shout out to Stephen Lynn. So thank you very much for your support of this podcast and the rest of the After Dark podcast as well. I'm on the verge of getting the gifts prepared. So if you go and visit our website on Patreon, it's patreon.com/Dis After Dark. There's tiers there, and if you sponsor us for a certain amount, you do get a gift as well. If you don't less than that, you just get a thank you. But yeah, so I'm working on those, and they will be dispatched as and when they are ready. So thank you for that, and look forward to that in the post. Right, I think that's it. The only thing I wanted to do was do a quick plug for Pop After Dark, which after a long hiatus is coming back possibly this week, depending on Craig's commitments. And I went to see Lego Batman today because they did an early release, early preview of Lego Batman movie. So I will be discussing that on Pop After Dark, mainly because it doesn't have anything to do with Disney. So yeah, if you're interested to hear my thoughts on Lego Batman, then listen there. And if you want a quick highlight, what I can tell you is that the film has had absolutely rave reviews, and I'm not raving. So if you're interested in what that means, look out for the new episode of Pop After Dark. Amanda, is there anything you wanted to plug?
No, but if you feel like it, you can go to my YouTube channel and watch my videos from my last trip, and then obviously I'm going again in May, so I'll have more from May.
Now, somebody actually the other day asked for recommendations of new vloggers that they weren't aware of, and I couldn't find your YouTube. I found it eventually. So if people want to find your YouTube channel, what do they have to do?
It is youtube.com/Boston White.
There you go. Nice and simple. So yes, I did find it eventually, but I thought, yeah, if you want to just name it, then it's even easier for people to find. So Amanda, thank you for joining me. Chris, thank you for joining me. You're welcome. And just like you're still here. And we will see you for another Dis After Dark soon. In the meantime, check out Universal After Dark if you haven't already, and Pop After Dark, and we'll see you on the flip side.
Bye.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network. Hello, dear listener. It's Nick of the After Dark Podcast Network. We hope you're enjoying this podcast, and we'll get back to it very, very soon. I just want to take a few minutes to let you know that we have a website at the moment that's at www.patreon.com/Dis After Dark. Now, what that is a website where you are able to support this podcast, Universal After Dark, and Pop After Dark. I've been hosting Dis After Dark now for coming up to 5 years, and pretty much enjoyed every minute. But unfortunately, as well as giving up our time to record these podcasts, they're not free to host. and all of this stuff does cost money. If you are willing or able to make a donation to help support our podcast, it'd be very much appreciated. If you visit patreon.com/disafterdark, and we've got a few tiers there of things that you can donate to, and there are some rewards available depending on the level of donation. Anything you are able to donate will really be appreciated. This isn't a way for us to get rich and give up our day jobs, because that's not going to happen. This is purely about making sure that we can continue to make these podcasts going forward. So thank you for your time. Hope you've enjoyed this podcast and all our others. And if you can support us, it'll be great. Once again, that website is patreon.com/disafterdark. Thank you.